Hello, in this video we'll be talking about internal displacement. First of all, what is internal displacement? Internal displacement refers to the forced movement of people within the country they live in. Millions of people are forced to flee their homes or place of habitual residence each year, including in the context of conflict, violence, development projects, disasters, and climate change, and remain displaced within their countries of residence. Millions more live in the situation of protracted displacement or face chronic displacement risk. As the end of 2019, 50.8 million people were living in internal displacement because of conflict, violence, and disasters. These numbers show that internal displacement is a crisis of enormous proportion, and yet the world is largely unaware. What challenges do internally displaced people face? People forced to flee or leave their homes, particularly in situations of armed conflicts, are generally subject to heightened vulnerability in number of areas. Displaced people suffer significantly higher rates of mortality than general population. They also remain at high risk of physical attack, sexual assault, and abduction, and frequently are deprived of adequate shelter, food, and health services. The overwhelming majority of internally displaced people are women and children who are especially at risk of abuse of their basic rights, more often than refugees. The internally displaced tend to remain close to or become trapped in zones of conflict, caught in the crossfire and at risk of being used as pawns, targets, or human shields. What is the difference between an internally displaced person and a refugee? According to 1957 Convention on the Status of Refugee, a refugee is a person who, owing to well-founded fear of being prosecuted for reasons of re- race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, or political opinion, is outside the country of his nationality and is unable to, or owing to such fear, is unwilling to avail himself for the protection of that country, or who, not having a nationality and being outside the country of his former habitual residence, as a result of such events, is unable to, or owing to such fear, is unwilling to return to it. A crucial requirement to be considered a refugee is crossing an international border. Persons forcibly displaced from their homes cannot or choose not to cross a border, therefore, are not considered refugees, even if they share many of the same circumstances and challenges as those who do. Unlike refugees, internally displaced people do not have special status in international law with rights specific to their situation. The term internally displaced person is merely descriptive. What rights do internally displaced persons have? Like all human beings, internally displaced persons enjoy human rights that are articulated by international human rights instruments and customary law. In situations of armed conflict, moreover, they enjoy the same rights as the other civilians to the various protection provided by international humanitarian law. The guiding principle of internal displacement, created in 1998, restate and compile existing international human rights and humanitarian law to the internally displaced and also attempt to clarify gray areas and gaps in various instruments with regard to situation of particular interest to the internally displaced. Once persons have been displaced, they retain a broad range of economic, social, cultural, civil, and political rights, including the right to basic humanitarian assistance, such as food, medicine, shelter, the right to be protected from physical violence, the right to education, freedom of movement and resistance, political rights such as the right to participate in public affairs and the right to participate in economic affairs. Whose responsibility is to protect and assist internally displaced persons? As a crucial element of sovereignty, it is the government of the state where the internally displaced persons are found that have the primary responsibility for their assistance and protection. The international community's role is complementary. At the international level, no single agency or organization has been designed as a global lead on protecting and assisting the internally displaced people. Rather, all are called upon to cooperate with each other to help address these needs to a collaborative approach. We hope that the government make new rules favoring the internally displaced people as they are our own citizens unlike the refugees.